initial say 5 years, they come, start to become businessmen. Yeah, very successful. Very successful. Then academic wise, I know I'm better than them.
And as this will be our last coffee talk for this year, on behalf of MRPMA, I would also like to extend a very warm welcome to all of you, be it the ones that are here, and also virtually via Facebook Live and YouTube Live. And today, as Pavi mentioned, we have our invited guest, Dr. Chua, and also two panelists, which is KK Yao, our president, and also Stephen Ng. Before we start, KK, do you want to say a few words?
Okay, thank you, Vipins. So, welcome again our coffee talks. I think we are stopped for a few months because we are busy for ILICE. Now we are back. I got a lot of feedback there from our members. They encourage us. We are continue to organize these coffee talks because this is very relevant and very benefit to our industry and our members, because this is a platform to us to get our expertise and the capital industry to share their experience to our members. This kind of experience sharing, I can be said that we cannot use the money to value it, because this is sincere from our speakers to ready to share their experience to our members. Here, I like to encourage to our members, don't be too few times to give questions to our speakers, because whatever your question out, that is the money put in your pocket, right? So please use this opportunity times to get so-called reward and returns from our speakers. Try to squeeze, whatever you can. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, KK. And today, for our topic, Sustainable Digital Transformation and Intelligent Manufacturing. Okay, I have one thing to say. So for our viewers and our registrants, if you have any questions, just feel free to ask. We will pass the mic around to you. And please, when you ask a question, please tell us where you're from, your name, and then follow by the questions. Okay, so without further ado, I would like to invite Dr. Chua to speak on this topic. I have a question, Dr. Chua. What is the digital transformation and how does it related to intelligent manufacturing?
Sure, no problem. Thank you very much, Vipin, all right, for the question. To those who attend physically here today, welcome to this session. And to those online as well, thank you for tuning in. So on the question on digital transformation, generally when we look at digital transformation, we look at the entire digitization of your shop floor, your manufacturing process, and also your supply chain, right? So when we talk about digitization, it's not just about buying computers, buying software. It's really to look at the entire connectivity of your supply chain processes, because from end to end, from your supplier all the way to your customer, it needs to be digitized and it needs to be connected all together. So when we start to collect a lot of data, when we start to digitize the process, that's when we are able to see the real stream of our process on a day-to-day basis. Because when we digitize, that's where we can see it real time, right? And with real-time data, that's where we can actually create more value and create intelligence from the data that we collect, right? So if you look at that data, DIKW pyramid, we call it DIKW, data, information, wisdom, right? Knowledge and then wisdom, right? So these four areas, when we start to collect data, it's just raw data. But from raw data, then you get information. That's where you understand your process better, right? Sometimes we think we do, but we may miss out certain gaps in the processes, right? And when we look at from the information that we get and we get knowledge about our production flow, that's where we can really see continuous improvement areas. From continuous improvement, that's where intelligence comes in, because from the data that you collect on a day-to-day basis, you're able to now create a better path and a better decision-making model. That's where intelligence comes in. And intelligent manufacturing is what really drives that value of transformation, because moving forward, we need to have that kind of intelligence in the factory to remain more cost-effective and to remain more competitive in the market.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Chua. how is the current status of our Malaysia SME in adopting digital transformation? What is the rate? How are Malaysians doing?
Okay, very good question, right? Malaysia today, since the readiness assessment started in 2018, right? A lot of companies started to embark on this RA assessment or readiness assessments. Up to today, from the recent knowledge that I get, we have about 1,200 people already done their readiness assessment.
Across
the whole nation, yeah, 1,200. 40% of the industries are in Selangor, right? Then you have other states also that build up to that. The number one applications for RA is from the F&B industry, food manufacturing, right? Then followed by, if I'm not mistaken, it's plastics, then only rubber products, right? So they have a top three that are actually applying for it. Out of 1,200 that have applied for RA, approved and already got the report, 400 of them applied for the intervention funds, right? That is actually the government's initiative to help drive Industry 4.0 implementation. And out of that, then we have about 200 odd that already approved. That's from my understanding or what I've been told. So the next question is, who actually adopted it? And what are the success rate? Now, this is where we are trying to get more data from the industry, that we are trying to see who have really strived to get that. And I think it's still not I think maybe we can still count with our 10 fingers who actually adopted, who actually did not adopt, and so on. A lot of companies that we have talked to on the ground mentioned a lot of challenges in adoption. And I think mainly the challenges started off very heavily since the pandemic. Because pandemic time, we have cash flow issues, companies have cash flow issues. The focus is now on survival rather than on transformation. So even though there are subsidies, right, 30% upfront payment, 70% subsidy, still companies need to come up with that big of an amount. The initial investment, yes, agreed. And one of the key problems we also see from industries is that we notice that there's a lot of uncertainty in that kind of movement, right? Do I go in with, do I take a leap of faith and just put in my money and hope that it will grow? Or some business owner will say, if I put in X amount of money, I must have X amount of ROI, then only I'll put in, right? But transformation is a journey, and often the time, there is no guaranteed returns. Yeah, we cannot guarantee returns. It's like when we invest in anything, there is no guarantee of returns. So because of that, many companies are still hesitating, I guess. And the challenges on the ground are that there's no key driver from the industries to actually say, okay, we are going to do this together, and then we take the next step. So for SME adoption, one of the main key challenges we also see are the talent side, right? Yeah. So many companies, because they are smaller, they have the top level management team. They have maybe the next level of supervisors, and then all operators. Yeah. So that also caused a bit of a challenge when it comes to transformation, because let's say if the whole transformation strategy, you buy equipment, you buy software, you buy hardware. Now the only reason how you can actually move forward is if you make use of the data, right? And like DIKW, right? Data, information, knowledge, wisdom. So if we don't use the data for improvement activities, it's just going to be a dashboard up there, and there's not much that we can do from it. So these are the things that we're trying to educate a lot of companies with, and it's slowly gaining traction, I can see. But there's still a lot of question marks from the companies, especially when they come to us with their readiness assessment report. Okay, what do I do now? Right? There's a lot of details there, and I think it's more of how they structure it to start building their roadmap going forward.
But just now you mentioned on the workforce, you have most of the operators, supervisors, and that comes to a question where talent first or technology first?
Yes, it's always a very big question on who comes first, right? I think technology is always there. It's, you can always look for the technology that you want to implement for your own industrial application. But talents are where it's going to be a very big question mark, that companies need to start looking at talent attraction and retention strategies. Because when companies start to implement ESG initiative, right now is a big term, right? ESG, environmental, societal, and governance. The talent attraction and retention is going to be a very, challenging strategy for many of the SMEs. Because our young talents, they like to see, number one is a career path, right? They want to see a career direction, career advancements. So the ones that are usually giving very structured career advancements are usually the multinationals, right? They have very, okay, you join at this one year down the road, this is where you are, this is where you are. SMEs, they are smaller business owners, which they are also, progressively improving their journey. So the career path is very, interdisciplinary and multi-dimensional. I would say use the word multi-dimensional because it's not a one person fixed to one job. You might do multiple jobs, which is okay, right? But of course, there needs to be a proper strategy. And I will always say you need the talent first, because with the talents, then you can start to then get them to drive the technology implementation. Because if you buy technology first and there's no talents, it's a real story. There is a furniture company in Ipoh, right? They went with technology first. Now they have a problem because there's no talent helping them to drive it, right? And you have the boss level, and then you have the managers, and they're all just still stuck on it. They don't know what to do, where to go about it, and they are very reliant on the vendor to implement it, which is also another challenging point. Because if the vendor is not knowing what the requirements are, then they are all stuck, right? So they don't have talents, and that's why they come to us asking whether we have talents to provide to them. So I guess that's also one interesting story about where the talent comes first or not.
Yeah, I agree with you. If there's no talents, then the data will just sit there. It doesn't give any meaningful indicators to the company. And how would this digital transformation be related to ESG? Just now you mentioned about ESG. How does it interrelated?
Okay. So the first thing would be ESG talks about environmental, right? And environmental talks about going paperless, right? So processes need to be digitized, right? So that they are reducing the amount of paper that is being generated from the company. So when I do factory visits, they talk about, yes, we do collect data, but it's still in a paper form, right? It's still not digitized. And sometimes the easiest way to do it is just to digitize the flow, right? The digital workflow. So that's one part of how it relates to ESG. Another part is being more productive and reducing waste. So when you start to implement transformation strategies, you start to find gaps in your process. Maybe certain processes can be optimized. So when you optimize that, that's where you reduce your wastage, right? Whether is it time wastage or whether is it power wastage, resources, right? Consumables, you get to reduce that, right? One of the key areas is talking about energy management, right? And right now, I think, if a machine runs, it just turns on, and we don't know how much energy it really generates or how to optimize it. So data is meant to see your overall production planning, digitize your overall production flow, and with that comes energy management. So building automation, right? Energy monitoring and optimization. Then using renewable energy to counter off the peak demand. Because from all this digitization, then you can actually see where is the maximum peak demand, and you reduce your overall energy utilization from there, or your cost. So that overall sort of complements that. And with proper digital transformation, that's where you are able to create better governance strategies in the company. You talk about E, S, and then G, so the governance. So you have proper, SOPs lined up. Everything is traceable, everything is documented, everything is transparent. So that allows the company to then get enough information to create a more holistic ESG journey. That's how we see digital transformation connected to ESG.
Mr. Stephen, Mr. Yao, if you have anything to add on.
Yeah.
Dr. Chua, I want to ask a question that I just want to say that the response for the SME to do the readiness assessments, and then even they do the readiness assessments, they also don't know how to to implement it because they are leaked out of so-called the example or the model factory to give them some ideas how to going to move on in this intelligence manufacturing, right? So how you got any kind of ideas to let our SMEs industries to train their talent first, because talent, as what I know, talent is very important. Without the talents, actually everything cannot be run, right? So this is very important. And the second, secondly, that's why how to guide our SMEs to give them some ideas. Mostly they don't have ideas. They don't have a so-called the model factory to learn or to copy.
Agree. Definitely, every industry sector should have a model factory that they can reference it to, right? And that's how SHRDC actually started off when we started the Malaysian Smart Factory. We start to build a model factory to showcase how technologies are connected. And of course, from our end also, we build it from ground up so that we know the challenges that industry will go through when they implement transformation strategies. One thing that we are trying to support is getting the companies within associations to actually be the champions for Industry 4.0. So for example, let's say, Mr. Yao, let's say your factory, if you already implement certain transformational strategies, then whether or not your factory is open for companies to come and see, right, how transformation is done, how things are actually doing the side. Of course, this is really depend on the industry sector.
So don't worry. If really my factory is already implements for this IR 4.0, I ready to open.
Yes.
Because since year 2014, my factory already open for the 5S trainings, on-site trainings. That's very benefit to our industry. Because from there they can have a physicals, practice and my practice size. Meanwhile, for my factories, I also implement for the automations. So even the Taiwan associations, they also organize a trip to come to my factories. I also open. Actually, nothing is secret, right?
Yes.
Actually, for me, my company is ready to open to share to our industry peers. Yeah.
And that's good, Mr. Yao. Definitely, that is a very good thing that you are promoting. And of course, we hope for many other industries to also be as open. Of course, some of them they are still very worried.
Yeah, definitely. That's why I become an example. There's nothing to worry. To let the industry to share, whatever the know-hows, the technology we have.
Correct. I think the term is what we're trying to create is champions in the industry, right? And we open up for like auto parts, for rubber products, timber, everyone. We are looking for the champion, so that when the industry champion go out and share, this is my journey, right? It doesn't need to be perfect. Usually we tell companies that your journey don't have to be perfect, because the imperfect journey is the one that we want to know. Because that's the challenge that we want to share with everyone.
I agree with that. It's nothing to perfect. Nothing we can go to 100%. But at least we have some things is already start to implement. Here I share the experience. Recently I hired two interns from these DPRMs from UniKLs, right? Their study is a chemical science, right? They come to my factory. I send them 3 days training in SHRDC to do IoT. Now the project is success, it's running. So from there, I can get the immediate data from these modules, right? I can check all the data on time. The meanwhile, that if got any failures on the systems, immediate they send the signal to my this Telegram with the photo. So this is very good example that the platform to train the talents, even they are not in the so-called the mechanical engineers, even they are in the chemical science, right? So this is one of the encouragement to build out the talents. It's very important.
Yeah, agree. Thank you, Mr. Yao. I think in the end, the talent side is also one thing that we see challenging when it comes to younger generation now. We see that because of the pandemic also, that it has caused a lot of talents to not be able to experience the manufacturing environment. Yeah, because mainly they were studying from home, or I don't know, remote internships just don't work sometimes, right? It's all at home, and then you're just probably doing data entry jobs. We don't see that is very effective. So when they graduate, one of the key problems we see is they never experience manufacturing. So they never even step into the plant. They never even see how is it running, So when we started to get more of the interns to start going back to factories, then they start to see the value. Yeah, and right now the biggest challenge for us when we train the new graduates is getting them to be trained to step into manufacturing, which is something they had never done before. So I think this is something that we need to sort of align back. I guess after 2 years, we need to align back so that they are aware about the manufacturing industry environments. Yeah.
Yeah, I think first of all, I have to say thank you, Dr. Chua, for giving a very insightful information about this intelligent manufacturing. So I like there's a quote saying that you can't improve what you can't measure. So definitely, I think this is very useful for us to improve what we lack of. And for like SMEs, we always talk about dollar and cents. And just now you say that there's no guarantee in ROI. It's very worrying me. So for like SME, how can we actually start this digitalization journey without looking at ROI first? And also, second thing will be, at the employee. Always, employees worry, when we implement automations or transformations, they worry they lost their job. So how can we, overcome this worry?
And yes, I'm sorry for worrying you about the dollar and cents now. Okay, but I think this is where we need to relate back to what ROI is about. Okay, so when we look at the readiness assessment report, right, there is a section where you will see what are your potential losses, and what are your areas that you can gain. Okay, and that's where you then have your assessor to give you a rough proof of concept, and then what's the estimated investments and all that. Now, when we look through and we look at estimated investments and the months to actually achieve back cover back your investment, right? We notice that some of them, the calculation comes from thinking that what you lost is definitely what you will gain when you invest that money. But usually it's not guaranteed because you lose it because there is areas of gaps for improvement. But question now is when technology is implemented, how is your continuous improvement strategy? Right? Let's say if you implement IoT to monitor your OEE, right? If your OEE is at 40%, if the company say that, okay, I know it's 40%, but I don't know how to get it to 70%. Therefore, whatever you lost is still lost because there's no way to map the operation again. That's what I meant by it's not guaranteed. Unless every company has a guaranteed strategy of improvement plan, then you can see the change from losses to gains. Now that's where you will see the ROI. Yeah. So how I would see it for companies is looking at your payback period. So when you implement technology, if you are worried about the cost, then you look at the payback period. Is it 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, or maybe even few months, right? So if you want to have a payback period, we always recommend below 3 years, because with technology advancement now, it's too fast. And you invest, let's say, 1 million into a software, and if it doesn't work, you are already going to be obsolete in the next 2 to 3 years. So this is where we see the payback period is more important. And when we look at transformational strategies, we always tell companies, okay, you know what, start small first. Don't need to do such a big scale, because when you want to identify areas of improvement, we notice that if you do everything at one go, you might get confused where actually creates impact. Yeah, so if you start small and you you fine tune it, you eventually start to see that this area we can actually improve a lot from the data part. Once you are confident, really, you replicate, and then you replicate. So then it becomes more meaningful because you really fine tune everything. But if you do here, in the end, you are number one, you are splitting the resources. It may not be too focused, and we may lose focus at the end. What we really want to achieve. So then it will just be again data on dashboard that has no achievement. Of course, then another problem will come in is that when we display the real value of digitization, let's say we really show on the dashboard, if you really at 40%, business owner will say, no, from my paper baseline, I calculate 70%. How come your dashboard show me 40%? Your software is wrong. So it's the software wrong, not the process. So then we sit down and we go through the process again. We say, okay, look, the software is fine. Okay, maybe it's the way you collect data, or maybe somebody wrote something different. So of course, then some companies, what they do is they put CCTV to monitor really the person there or not. And really true that they notice that it's 40% is real. Yeah, so the software didn't lie. So that's how they notice that there are areas of improvement. That's one company, like interesting case. And they noticed that the gaps were not so much on the process, but it was more on operators, how to say their SOP. So when they work, then they needed to take raw materials. What's supposed to be 10 minutes became 30 minutes. So then after they fine tune that from the transformation, they start to see a yield improvement of about 10%. So you can see from one process, if you improve that by 10%, sure the other process will slowly follow suit. Yeah.
Thank you for making me more clear. The ROI is good. The second question I'd like to ask also is about cyber securities, because now we are capturing the data, and how you can ensure that this data is protected and used among our company. We worry that people might hijack our data or ransom us. So how safe are we using this transformation?
Okay, no problem. Okay, cybersecurity is one of the hot topics now for a lot of business owners. Whenever I do training, first thing they'll ask me, is secure or not, right? Now, there are a few levels. Okay, number one is companies, where do you store your data? Okay, so if you store your data in the cloud, right? Okay, now what is a cloud? Cloud can be a public cloud, or it can also be a private cloud. So public cloud means you are saving your data into a data center. So you are basically renting space. Okay, now cloud also, there are two levels. Okay, one is you go work direct with the cloud provider, and this cloud provider provides you with agreement terms to say that your data belongs to you, right? Now, the solution that you buy, right, if it's a cloud-based, then companies need to ask this question: data belongs to who? Right? Because now you're working with cloud provider, solution provider, then only you. So then there's one middleman layer that we need to solve. So that's the data part, whether it belongs to you or not. Okay, now cybersecurity, if let's say your data is hosted locally in your factory, that means all your database and everything like that, the likeliness of it being hacked is lesser. It's still possible, but it's lesser. So companies need to then invest in proper IT infrastructure. right? Firewalls, the proper networking infrastructure, those need to be there. Now, next thing is password protection. Okay, if your software or your machines, if it has username and password, it cannot be admin and admin 123. That one cannot happen. That also caused a big issue. It's convenient, but it's very vulnerable. Yeah, so that one we need to solve that portion first. And then also what we notice when we see factories, right, when they, let's say a person leaves the computer, it's always open. So it's not auto lock. All these things are compliance issues. It needs to be fixed there. Then only we start to look at proper cybersecurity strategies. Because let's say even if you have the highest security of firewalls, highest security of security, but if you don't have this in place, then also will be a challenge. Also on a worker level, awareness about security also important. For example, if you see an email that say that if you want your bonus from your boss this year, click this link, don't simply click. Okay, that also will create another challenge. It happens before, my colleague. I mean, true story. My colleague actually received a WhatsApp message, that the person used my profile picture from LinkedIn, and he used another number, and he actually messaged my colleague saying, "Can you go and buy this for me and send it to me?" Good thing she double checked with me before she go and do anything. Otherwise, that's the way that you get scammed. So these are some of the important areas that we need to educate. From education, then they will know where to be careful of. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Chua. I would like to read Stephen's question on the employees' insecurity about transformation, digitizations. Do you have any solutions or suggestions for that?
Insecurity. Okay, yes, I think I missed that out. Okay, I think employees would want to digitize or want some kind of automation if number one, they are still relevant. Number two is it makes their job easier. Okay, so there is a problem if the new digitized job makes their life more difficult, right? For example, one company in Johor Bahru, right, that I went to, they just implement a new ERP system. Wow, nice ERP system, all implemented. So we went for a factory floor round. We went to talk to each employee. So we asked the operator. Operator is our stakeholder. They are the ones using the software. We asked the operator, what do you feel about this software? So the operator double click on the software to open. Took 10 minutes to open. New ERP system, 10 minutes to open. Okay. So we waited. Then operator after a while, they got AG already because need to wait very long. Say, abang, lambat lah. I go do other work first. So after that, then we asked, how your experience with this software? Very complicated, very complex, hard to use. See, so if they don't use it, the whole digital transformation journey will break down. Because if nobody uses it, then it will definitely break down. So the most important part is to keep the people that are going through the transformation journey in the loop. Yeah, that means we can't just make a decision to say everything changed and then they don't follow. They need to be part of the process. So that's how we actually get to ensure lesser uncertainties or insecurity, to make sure that they know that this is meant to help you improve your process and optimization. Yeah.
And I think this is a good point, because I remember the first time that I asked Dr. Chua on how my company can go into this step. He asked me one very critical question. What is your pain point? Yeah, he asked me this question, and that makes me think, okay, I should go down to the operator or the frontliners to ask what actually happens, or I should go to my boss to ask for budget first. Which one is actually, okay. So for middle level like us, how do I go about that?
Yeah, so I think for us that are the working level one, we need to first find out on the ground what is actually the challenges. Where are actually the areas that they need the most support in? Then only we come up with transformational strategies. right? Let's say, for example, one of the factory that we visit, one of the key problems is they cannot sync up each process, the total numbers of output before they send it for the final process that they are supposed, there's a final assembly. So they need to sync between all the relevant process heads first, then only they can go to the last one. So that was their main pain point. It's not even OEE, that's the main synchronization. So the first step for what we suggest to that is digitize your process first, get it into a digital form where everybody can see, right? Then once you know that, you can plan better. Now, then the next question is, if each one is visible, then the first part is to see where is the bottleneck. Yeah, if one process is the bottleneck, is not moving, then implement the strategy to improve it, right? If we start off from the highest level, let's say if I were to ask my boss, what do you want to change? They'll say, change everything. Everything also I want, huh? Oh, okay, budget, budget, this X amount only can. So they cannot visualize what is the output of the justification. So we need to go from the ground. Once we know the problem, then we go up. Problem is, if we don't know what's on the ground and we implement something that is not workable, then the top level will start to question. Definitely. Like, I already spent X amount of money, why is it not working? Right? And that is a key concerning point that will continue to come out after that.
Yep, I agree with you. And if I come back to the intelligent manufacturing, how does a company achieve intelligence in a manufacturing operation?
Okay, intelligence will come in when you have decisions being made very fast, right? That means from the data that you collect, you don't need to actually wait for too long to plan something or to do something. So everything is already done for you, more or less. So when you have data, you have OEE data already. Straight away, you know the next day you already have a planned production. So let's say you digitize your process, everything is digitized, right? And you have your OEE schedule, you have your total output schedule. With a click of a button, you can already plan your production for the next 1 week. This is production schedule. If got delay, what's going to happen? If early, what's going to happen? So this is intelligence, right, coming in. Next thing is, are you able to forecast demands, right? If you're able to forecast your demand, then there is some form of intelligence that's happening there. Or can you forecast your maintenance schedule, right? Can you forecast your potential problems, right? That is where intelligent manufacturing comes in, right? When you talk about maintenance, then you talk about predictive maintenance, right? Let's say your machine has been running for a long time. Can your machine tell you in 1 week time that I'm going to fail already? Can you do something, right? Before it actually fail, and then we have to go and search for solution, firefight, and no spare part. That's the worst part of it. And all the vendor will come next week. That's also another problem. But if you have all these planned, your machine can already tell you roughly what to do. That's the form of intelligence we're looking at, right? And how do the machines process themselves and react on their own? That's also another form of intelligence. But regardless, the human need to still be a part of it. We cannot say that machine do all. Because if we say machine do all, what if the part that you inspect is over reject? Your machines are only as smart as how you program it to be. So there still needs to be human intervention. That's why the talents are still important, because they need to determine, okay, this is bad, good. They need to do that labeling. If, let's say, we give it all to the machine to do because our solution provider said the machine very smart, already go and do it, can do for you everything. When over-reject happens, we have a problem. When there is a misdetection, also we have another problem. So there must always be human in the loop, we call it. Yeah, and part of this, now we talk about Industry 4, right? But part of the next phase of industry is talking about Industry 5, where it talks about human-centric transformation, where humans are coming back to the force to actually help to drive that transformation. And that is the next interesting phase of things. Yeah.
So is this the next step, next form of digital transformation, human coming back?
Yes, yes. It's actually one of the key problems in not just Malaysia but across the globe is they are talking about human-centric transformation. Because one thing Industry 4 did not really address is where are the people?
Yeah. Many people are worried they might lose the job.
Yeah, correct. People are worried they lose the job. You know, if you implement a robot to carry your items, the robot maybe will be sitting down. People still carry because of sabotage. Also can happen. Yeah, it can happen anytime, right? So human-centric transformation talks about how we get robots to work with humans, how humans are in the loop, right? And that's where you talk about a lot about collaborative robotics and all that. That will be the next stage of things. Of course, now we are still in this topic of Industry 4, so we continue to discuss more about that until the next phase of revolution becomes more structured. Then, of course, there's the next step that we need to look at. Yeah.
Mr. KK, do you have anything you want to add?
Okay.
Thank you, President. Can I say amen? I'm very interested with what Dr. Chua said. You know, just a click of buttons, and you know you can maybe make the decision. I imagine I am at the beach. It's a click of buttons, and the factory is still running. But of course, it's not. We are not there yet. So, how can company start with this digitalization? Is it from the bottom up, or is it do the boss need to involve? Because as boss, we are always busy. So is it just that we pass to our workers and get consultant and it will be digitalization, or it's involved the whole parties in the company?
Definitely, we always advise for the bosses to be involved. I understand that sometimes the business owner they are too busy, they leave it to the maybe the managers or the working level to do, but without the boss level involvement, it becomes that the journey is not complete. Yeah. Having the bosses to be committed also means that they are part of the journey. So they know the transformation process from in and out, and they know the challenges involved. And of course, that's when they also know what are the areas to direct the roadmap of the company. Because sometimes, if the bosses are not involved, it's just like, okay, consultants say do A, B, C. So if you just follow up, why this one not done? Why this one not done? Then, pointing fingers will start to happen, blame games. So we always say that bosses being involved in the process helps to align the roadmap and strategy better, right? In terms of the commitment level, the resources that you need. Sometimes it's just a matter of bosses allocating enough resources, then you can already start moving. This is one example when we work with one company. The working level engineering team, the managers, they really wanted to transform. They came to SHRDC, they see the model factory, they see, oh, this is what we want. They go back, few months, very quiet. Nothing happened, very quiet. So we say, okay, what happened? Why there's nothing going on? They said, oh, waiting for boss to decide. Then we said, how about you bring your boss, come. Let us bring him for coffee talk. Have coffee. Let's talk about your transformation journey. So they brought their boss, their CEO, to come. He have a look, one whole line already. Then he looked at the managers. 1 month, this one up. Straight away, 1 month is up. Yeah, it's really about I think bottom up needs to also agree to transform, but the drive needs to come from them.
Now, what happens if I don't do this transformation? Does it put me out of business, or no, I can still survive?
Okay. Interesting question. Right? Don't worry. We'll give you a shot. Okay. I think digitization in some form needs to be there. And there needs to be a change of the way that we do business. Right? The conventional way of doing business, you can still survive. Okay, I believe you can still survive, but your market capacity may just be very limited. So it depends on where your direction wants to go. Some companies, their They are comfortable with just this market. They are okay with it. But they must remember that if they cannot be competitive, someone else can always take over. And also another point is that if the government strategy moving forward is really about ESG ranking for the companies, it means that from the supplier all the way to the customer, they must comply to certain ESG requirements, which also means that it's going to be more challenging for the business to get more businesses, right? And that's where they really need to start thinking about this transformational strategy. It may not be right that you transform from the factory inside. Some of them, they transform from the way that they sell goods, right? They sell items. For example, like I was just talking to one of the managers or director from a firefighter. You know the firefighter fire extinguisher, right? Generally, why we will buy fire extinguisher is to, number one, is to save our facility and our factory and our house, right? But firefighter sales, you see, you buy one fire extinguisher, how long before you buy the next one, right? Before you buy the next fire extinguisher. So what did they do different, right? They started to sell fire extinguishers with customizable design. For example, Christmas, now they have new Christmas edition, Christmas design, you can put Mr. KK Yao for you. So you know, you can give somebody a fire extinguisher, right? As a gift to cool them down. To cool them down. Maybe I think so. Good idea. I'll give one to my boss later. You know, these are ways to transform, and how they use to sell. They use social media. So that's also a form of digital transformation, right? You are transforming from newspaper advertisement to now social media. So these are ways to become more competitive, and I think there are a lot more innovative ways to do it.
Yeah, Dr. Chua, thank you for your Christmas gift. I'd like to get your advice on this. You see, in the market, there are a lot of so-called rubber industry consultants to do the readiness assessments for our industries. Mostly we are hires the consultants, they are not in our industry. So maybe they give a different kind of advice or suggestions as it is not relevant or not daily work in our industry. So from your point on that, you got any advice to help our industry, especially our SME? That's why they cannot to be moved forward for this IR4 because they're not confident with the existing market consultants.
Yeah. I think regardless of any consultants or any assessors that come to the factory, I don't think that they can give a full assessment or a very firm answer to digitization by coming 1 to 2 days, right? When the business owner has been operating the factory for more than 30, 50 years. I mean, you know your business better. You know your process the best, right? So usually what we will provide for the business owner is the knowledge on what are the available tools for transformation, right? So these are the tools, right? Then we give back to the business owner, okay, do you think your process, if you implement these tools, will help you, right? If it helps you to make your process easier, then yes, you can try, right? But we don't say that, you must follow A to Z this transformation because every company is different, right? When we supported a few projects on transformation for auto part companies, all of them are doing it differently. There's no one fixed solution. Everybody is customized. They want to calculate this, that, is that. It's all different. It's different, very different. And I mean, one of the most complicated one recently that we saw was a mold die casting company. The meeting time also they want to put inside their OEE. Okay, sure, go and try. But the key thing is letting the business owner decide how they want to transform, right? And give them time and space to try. So that's why we started to share with the business owners like the tools that are more open, right? They can start downloading today, they can start using it, they can just try it, right? It's minimum investment. So even if you don't make it happen, it won't feel so painful, right? But the key point of it is to try and see what works, then fine tune from there. A consultant cannot say that once I implement for you, is 100% you will make it work, right? Because they don't understand your industry that well. Unless, for example, you hire them to stay in your factory for a year or two, definitely then maybe they will be able to implement. But usually they will do like, I come once, twice a month, and then I'll go out, come back, go out. I think it's not easy to manage with that, and I think it gives also more anxiety for the business owner.
Yeah, if like that, they're very costly to our industry. That's why they're not really keen to move forward. No?
Correct.
Yeah. That's why from here, do the SHRDC to provide the readiness assessment service to the players?
Okay, we don't do readiness assessment because I think the government has already appointed the assessor bodies since day one. So we don't do the assessment part, but companies that want us to come and have a look at their facilities, they want to come and ask us about where to take the next step, we can do that. Yeah, we can help them with that.
I think thanks for SHRDC is really keen to help our industry to do the readiness assessments. Because as well, I know that definitely the government already appoints so-called the readiness assessments consultant to provide a service for people who want to get a grant from the agency or authorities. Well, I mean that as well, I know that the SHRDC to provide all the open software. Actually, it's very less cost to our industry to kickstart. Actually, this is very good point on that. That's why I'm asking that if maybe the SHRDC can be help our industry, do some advice in these readiness assessments from their processings, then also can be help them to do the talent developments on this upskilling them to run this with the minimum cost. I think this work, at least they can solve some things, right? So from that, if really they have big fundings, then they can move forward to more professional software.
Yes, definitely. Definitely that's what we do now. We actually take a lot of companies' reports and we actually read through, and we do this as a service for companies. We usually don't even charge for it, because for us is we want to help companies to grow, and we want them to grow sustainably, right? That's why we always start them off. You can try the software, you can test it out, you can just explore. Then, of course, once they get the hang of it, they know where to improve, then they know where to take forward. Most important is the business owner need to understand a potential roadmap. So usually we go through a program for the business owner, all the technology, then we tell them, okay, now you can start to build your roadmap. And we also continue to actually understand the problems and challenges from companies. That's how we start building more programs to suit and solve the industry problems, right? So like some of our new programs, like the digital workflow management, is actually designed to help company to set up their own sort of ERP systems. Where they can actually install it, they can use it, set it up, start trying something, right? Because the moment you try, then you know, hey, this is how it looks like. This is how it's supposed to be, right? If you don't try, then you buy first the expensive one. Maybe you might like it, maybe you might not. So try and understand it first, the technology. Once you're comfortable, then you can do what you need to do. Then you make the bigger decision.
That's very good to know that we can try first.
30
days trial?
No, it's open, so it's a forever trial, I guess. Hopefully you can implement it as a full.
Thank you, Dr. Chua. And for now, I would like to open the questions to anyone. Do you have any questions? Bobby, can you help to pass the mic over? Thank you, Bobby. Please tell us where you are from. Thank you.
Yeah, hi, I'm Carmen. I have my own consultancy. Okay, not in the manufacturing. I came for this topic because of the digital transformation. Now, as an SME, I would like to know, even though I know you have already elaborated that it's very to your pain point, there you can plug and play and could customize. But you know, if you are given so much data and you know everything is important, can you give a very simple advice on where is the first place to start on the digital transformation and, you know, and must? Because, you know, if you don't, the question is, how long can you don't? So where is the first point to start on a digital transformation for SME? Thank you.
Okay. For me, the first point to start for any company is change your paper to paperless. That's the first point to start. Because let's say if we start with digitizing machines and all that, so it's going to take a while because machines are, you know, they're a different level of kind of digitization. You need to come up with a lot of hardware costs and all that, right? But if you digitize your process first and you make your process streamlined, then you start to see where are the areas where you can improve for it. Yeah, so digitizing from paper to paperless should be the first step, right? For example, a simple use case from a furniture manufacturer, right? They had a problem with everyone getting the right revision of drawing. So their machines are quite distributed across the factory. It's very far apart because they use wood products, right? So one of the key problems at the beginning was getting everyone to digitize, getting every of the drawing to be the same, right? So of course, somebody will come in and they will tell them, okay, you must use ERP system, you must use form list, this thing, that thing, this thing, that thing, very complex thing. But they came up with a very simple solution, which I also thought that, hey, it's quite smart. So what they did was, everyone needs to have the same drawing. Instead of them scolding and enforcing and making sure that they pin the thing to the board and all that, every station has one tablet. One tablet, and every station will have internet connectivity to the tablet, and the drawing is all in Google Drive. Simplest way to solve the problem, no more quality issues, because everyone refers to the same drawing. Yeah, so the first step of converting from paper to paperless will help the SMEs to see some form of digitization. Yeah, then only we start to think about OEE and all that. Now, OEE only will be beneficial and valuable for the company. Number one, if they practice lean manufacturing. So a lot of companies in Malaysia, they did not go through a lean manufacturing process. So the auto part industry, they are very aware because they started off with the Japanese coming here and train them in lean. If you're being trained by Japanese, it's a totally different game than being trained by local manufacturers on lean. So the Japanese really, you go down to the shop floor, nobody sit down in the office, you stand there and see the process. But that's actually a very good way for them to see continuous improvement. So if you digitize the process, but there's no continuous improvement strategy, it's not valuable at all. Yeah, so that's why we say that paper to paperless, and then lean manufacturing. Then you talk about digitizing your manufacturing. That's our recommendation. But of course, you can go in parallel. That's fine as well.
Echo to what Dr. Chua said, paper to digitalize, but not toilet paper.
Thank you, Carmen, for the questions. Do I have another questions for Dr. Chua or for the other panelists? Online?
Oh, okay.
If there's no other questions.
Any questions?
You may should be come up some questions. How to kickstart the so-called the digitalization at your factory?
Okay, so good afternoon, Dr. Chua.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for the discussion earlier. I'm Jonathan from EcoPower. So you mentioned earlier that you shared some experience. So for example, the factory at Eco, they face some issues. So what the issues that they face is the talents. There are no talents to run the whole digitalization thing. So is there any, could you kindly share any other experience that, any other issues that maybe certain, more common issues that certain companies would face when they just started to step into this digitalization, intelligent manufacturing?
Yes, there are a lot of industry use cases that we have seen happening across the whole nation, right? One is the talents one, which they don't have the right people to implement technologies. Another thing is companies that are not sure about how technologies work also will face a challenge of implementing it with very high costs, right? For example, like a lot of last time that the buzzword is everything go cloud, right? Everything is in the cloud. So we did have a company where they invest in a Singaporean cloud-based platform for manufacturing. 200,000 ringgit spent, and every day they look at the screen is a loading screen because no internet connection. Yeah, I wouldn't say completely no internet, but the bandwidth is not strong enough to send data and retrieve back data from the cloud to process. So that comes with a problem where companies thought that easy thing, plug in a device, send to cloud, see data. That's actually what's supposed to happen. But different companies have different requirements or constraints, right? So after we heard about that, companies said, digital transformation, no need lah, internet also cannot use one, right? We need to solve 4G first. So, now government talk about 5G, but I always say solve the 4G first. So then I told the company, look, if internet was a requirement to digitally transform, then it's wrong already, right? You don't actually need internet, you need intranet. So after we sat down and we went through with the company, they went through proper training on how to implement it on premise. Today it's running 24 hours, no issue, no loading screen issue, nothing. And they already expanded from 2 machines to 6 machines. They do it on their own, which is very encouraging. And now the boss said that, very happy, I can see from my Telegram, what's my status now of my machine. Running or not running, I can see. They didn't do OEE. They wanted to look at, quite interesting, they call it the machine heartbeat. So if the machine is down, then you will see a line. If not, then it's a straight line. So that already gave, initially they lost confidence, they lost some motivation. But after they implemented this, then they became more excited. So they started to do more, they started to explore more, they started exploring cobots. So they first bought an expensive universal robot to do it. Then they bought a China robot. Then they saw some problems with it. Then they now looking at other areas. That is sort of the way where companies try. They try bit and pieces. So initially they had only one engineer do everything. But we told them look, you need to expand, so that not one guy do all. Yeah. So although he's excited to do it, but let's give him some time to rest. Yeah. So this is some challenges that we see, and of course there's a lot more on the ground. Things need 2 days to sit down with you here. Yeah, I'll story you more.
No problem.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Chua and Jonathan, for the questions. And after that, of course, you can. There will be a free factory tour to SHRDC model factory after this coffee talk. And if there's no other questions, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to take this opportunity to thank you again for coming here to attend this coffee Yeah, coffee talk. I'm too excited. And of course, I hope everyone will be benefited from this session as well. So as a token appreciation to Dr. Chua, I would like to invite Mr. KK Yao to give the token of appreciation to Dr. Chua.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Thank you, Mr. Yao. Thank you. Okay. Oh, you have, okay, thank you. Yeah, I can have coffee with you. Okay, sure.
Yeah, we can continue to have coffee. And once again, thank you, everyone, and have a pleasant day ahead. Thank you very much. Yes, we can get ready for the factory tour. Yeah. After the factory